2024BAA95. This is for schedule numbers out of Boulder County. The petitioner is John M. and Geraldine Spreitzer, and the respondent is Boulder County Board of Equalization. Would the petitioner state your name for, I'm sorry, my name is Diane DeFries. I'm going to chair this hearing. Along with me is
Claudia Crane.
And would the petitioner state your name for the record, please?
I'm John Spreitzer.
Thank you. Would the respondent identify themselves for the record, please?
Yes, hello, this is Olivia Lucas with the Boulder County Attorney's Office. And I have two witnesses for this hearing, Brian Floyd and Debbie Meyer. And I think just for the record, Geraldine Spreitzer is here also for the petitioner.
Okay, thank you.
Blurred, sorry.
Let's go through exhibits before we get started. Again, Mr. Spreitzer, I don't have any exhibits from you on this case, so we'll accept your testimony as evidence, okay?
Yeah.
And Ms. Lucas, we have Respondents Exhibit A, which is the appraisal report. Is that what we should have?
Yes, and we also have an Exhibit B, which is, we have, because of the 4 parcels, Exhibit A covers the first 3, well, 3 of them, I don't know the first, and then Exhibit B covers another.
Wow.
And they were filed together as sort of one big PDF.
Mine was just stapled together as one. So
Yeah.
we've got Exhibit A and B.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Mr. Spreitzer, do you have any objection to the board admitting those documents into the record?
No.
The board will admit Respondents Exhibit A and B. Okay, Mr. Spreitzer, I'm going to swear you in before we go to opening statement, and the reason being is that anything you give us in opening statement can be used as testimony as well. So I just want to encompass all the testimony. Mr. Spreitzer, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed with your opening statement, testimony, whatever you want the board to know.
Well, my first priority is that I bought this property in 1963. I bought the 3 acres put together there, and they were just plowing the road between the 3 acres they were bringing the road in. But Mrs. Brock just had started that subdivision in June, and I knew her. So I told her I wanted to buy some property there. So she showed me what the map was, and I got to pick out the 3 pieces of property I wanted there, okay? So I bought them 3 pieces. They were right there, and the road went right through. And I said, hey, I want to raise some Arabian horses with my children. We did that for 34 years, and I bought them 3 pieces of property. I wanted to build my house across the road, but that was 1.4 acres, and it was a little big, and I couldn't afford it. So I bought the property across the street for $2,500, and one across the road cost me $3,000, and I bought those properties first. Later on, I went and purchased the one next to it down there for $2,995. So the 3 pieces of property there cost me close to $9,000. So I had those, and I had them there, and we raised our horses, like I said, and had hay on them until 1998. Then after that, I cut hay on it, and I rented it out to people to raise their horses and stuff, which was very reasonable. So it was nothing I try to make a lot of money on, but I like to pay for the gasoline and stuff it cost me to get people to cut the hay and stuff. So I try to break even on it. That's what I try to do. And we enjoyed the property for 63 years, and we love it, and we're still out there now. And then in a couple years later than that, my brother was renting the house from that we just talked about in Boulder, and he said, I'd like to buy a lot with you, and we can build a house on it. And I said, okay. And so we did that, and that was a piece of property that other lot that we'll talk about later that's up the way, and we bought that a couple of years later. Is there anything else that I should testify on about?
If you want to go into testimony, what value do you believe these parcels are?
I believe that we went through this. This is not the first time I've gone through this. This is the first time I've gone through it on the board like this. But I was down at the courthouse talking this over for time after time. And every time I went in there, the people sympathized that I had a piece paying so much money on this. And this is way back. You paid like $2,500 for a piece of property, and now you're getting taxed $17,800 a year for it. That's ridiculous. And it's nothing that I wanted to get into. And when I first was old enough to know what taxing was, they said, once you buy a piece of property, what the taxes is on it, that's what it'll be until you sell it. And when you sell it, the taxes will change. Well, that's not the way it goes. They give you double tax every 2 years, they reassess now and everything else, and it goes crazy. And it's not reassessing it to a little bit. It's like almost a double on some occasions. I mean, that piece of property I'm talking to, that we will talk about probably last year. I'll talk about that because that's the one I'm really concerned about talking about, because it's ridiculous. And the others were already solved, and I don't know why we're still up again and why the taxes went up on that one when we already had this solved, and I've overpaid the taxes, and it took them 2 years to return that overpayment to me. But they did, and because it was already done. And so I don't understand that. Those taxes on my property and the property across the street and the one to the west were all taxed, and we had all taxes on it, and they were verified. And they just said that, hey, that there went up. There's an unincorporated, and it's at the highest interest rate. That's what they said for taxes. And because it wasn't, and they didn't want to even do the one across the street from me. But they did it when they told me, when I bought it, they said, yeah, that's part of your property, so it'll be taxed at the lowest rate that you have on your house, the same rate as you have on your house. That was that and them 3 pieces of property there. And also the property up above was taxed at that at the time, but now it's not that. So, being it's gone crazy for me, you know, I'm not a billionaire or millionaire or anything like that, and it's way out of our means, and we just can't afford to keep it because we're going to lose our house if we do, and we won't even be able to keep it. So what we want to do is to try to get a reasonable price on it so I can get it and sell it. And I already talked to a lawyer about the lot up above and about properties that are taxed a certain amount. That piece of property was taxed at $800 and some thousand, and I had it on the market 2 years ago, and there wasn't one person to give me that much for that property, not even 675,000 the minimum that I wanted. So, you know, when I put it on the market for that because that's what the tax value was on it, and I didn't put it any higher, but that was way above what I thought it was worth, and it was what I put it on the market for. It was even more than I thought it was worth, but nobody even offered me that. So it's a piece of property that I feel is way overpriced, and it bothers me. So it's on the same docket, so that's why I'm talking about it. All 4 of these pieces of property are here, 3 here and 3-1. It's all in one piece of paper here to me. So I figured it was all together, but I didn't know how separated it was. And I think Debbie walked up there with me and saw the property because we had it. It was, the hay was cut on it then, I think, and but I don't remember anything else about that. We never looked over that property any more than that, because I know the neighbor's garage he built is too close to that piece of property for one thing, and that there they said, oh, that shouldn't have been. Well, they built that house before I bought the property, and when I bought the property, I found out it was too close. And when I bought the property, I was told that there was a water rights to the Lafayette Water Department because the line runs right through the back of that property, and that we could tap on. And at the price they told me at that time was $26,000, and I said fine. I said if we build, I said it costs about, at that time it said it's about $12,000 to drill a well. And I said $26,000 to put it on would be a lot better if they probably had a water department taking care of water. But so that we didn't get any initial paper written up on that. That was the rule. The person that lives right behind us or right across the back of us, they tapped onto the line and had it ever since. Their house is there, and they work on the Lafayette water line there, and so it's right there. But I went down to the Lafayette Water Department and tried to get some stuff on it. And, the lady said she'd call me back. She never did. And then Debbie one day told me that she was gonna be in Lafayette. I was looking all over for all those places that they got out there in Lafayette, and we don't know that well. And I finally found the place in Lafayette where she was, but she said her day is Thursday, so I mean, that's why I kind of got stuck on Thursday, and I want it done on Thursday. Today's Thursday. So I remember I try to associate stuff so I keep it together in my mind, and I don't want to be messing around and saying, well, I don't know nothing about this. I just think this is right, but I do know something about it. So, I'm just trying to be fair with the world, and I know taxes got to be high because there's a lot of expenses, but I'm just trying to present my case, not from greed, but mostly from need, okay? And that's all I got to say.
Okay, all right, Ms. Lucas, do you have an opening statement and questions of Mr. Spreitzer?
Yes, to both of those, I think. I think I'll ask just one question right now, and then I can go into opening. I think that makes the most sense. Just, I was curious about, you said you bought the property up the road to put a house on. Is
Yeah.
that the one? And have you guys ever put a house on that?
We never did build
No,
it because
okay.
they said, well, we're leaving. My brother went to
Oh, okay.
one other fellow was there. One moved to Gunnison and one moved to northern Colorado somewhere. And they said, well, we don't want to get involved. And I said, well, I'll pay you guys for what we paid for the lot. And that's all I did. And I didn't want to do anything else. I said, and I said, I'm busy. I was building houses for people.
Yeah.
And I was busy up in Netherlands and all over the mountains. I've done a lot of mountain homes in the western slope. But anyhow, so that's how I got the piece of property. I didn't want to let it go, and they said, yes, you just pay us what we got in it. And I did, and then I kept the payment up and paid for it. Because it wasn't paid for yet. It was just about a year and a half or two after that, they said, we don't want to do what we said we wanted to do. So that left it with me.
Yeah.
And I said, it won't hurt me to buy it because I can take hay off of that. I said, I could use an extra lot to put 2 horses on and let them eat it in the summertime and then hay it in the winter. I said, it wouldn't hurt me for the money that is. I said, I could pay for the hay. So I did. And that's why we had that lot all by itself, and we get the hay for our horses. Just
Okay.
like we did the rest around our house.
Yeah. And do you still hay on that property?
Yes, we do. I've got hay on it right now that I donated to a place in Erie that's taking care of acceptable horses and stuff. And he said he's got about 23 or 24 horses out there. And I told him, well, I try to find people that can benefit a little bit at least. And if I can get the $250 that it cost me to cut it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
And if I don't, that's okay too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to push somebody, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But if they really need it, I guess I could afford $250 for the hay cut. But anyhow, that's why I still got that piece of property. I help people and I put hay, and I give it to a lot of people. What hay is left over, I get the few bales. There's still a few bales on that lot, and there's a lot of people that raises chickens and stuff, and they come and ask me, John, do you have any hay? I said, what do you? Oh, I just need a bale for my chickens to break them up. I said, oh yeah, you could come get a bale. I said, I got hay that you can have. That's just take it. And so I give it. It wasn't much, but 10 or 15 bales of hay I had sitting there. And I would, what was it worth to me?
Yeah.
I mean, and they were good friends of mine now. They always keep asking, John, you got hay? I said, yeah, and they want to pay me, but I won't take any money for it. So, will you get on for that hay? They don't know. I said, just my friend, take it. I said, you could use it in your garden. I said, I don't. No, well, anyhow, I'm in 63 years. I know a lot of people out there,
Yeah.
and, so they're good friends of mine. I just have a lot of fun just associating with them.
And if you wanted to build a house, if you had means and the desire on that property, that would still be something you could do?
Oh, yeah, I could do it. Yeah, I could do it. But
Or, I
not
mean,
to
it's
give
like
any crap, like it's unincorporated and it's, I said, that's a subdivision lot. I said,
Mhm.
I can build on that house. And in fact, I have to build a bigger house on that lot up there than I do where I live.
Hmm.
That lot down there, and after you get to a certain line there, I think it's Eddie Place or something that splits it, that property up above, you have to build a 1,200 square foot house for 1,250. And where I am, you don't have to have a house that big.
Interesting.
I think it would fit about 1,100 square foot.
Okay.
So, it made a difference. I said, hey, I can build a little house.
Yeah.
And it cost me less money because we already had 3 children when we moved out there, and we had 4 more after that. So we had a lot of kids,
Yeah.
and and the house was adequate. So my
Okay.
wife made it adequate. Anyway, we had a lot of fun and we enjoyed it. Well, we're getting ready. We're going to have to leave it,
Mhm.
and not because I don't want to stay there, but I'm 87 years old.
Yeah.
So we have to do something. It's just we have to do it. I mean, life
Yeah.
brought that. That's what we got to do.
Well, thank you for that answer.
You're welcome.
I just do a quick opening. I think it's been made clear, but this hearing is covering 4 different parcels. The one that we were just talking about is I'm referring to them by their parcel numbers because the unimproved parcels all have 0 Crannell as their street address. So parcel R0036449 is the one I believe we were just talking about. It's a vacant lot in the Fairview Estates subdivision in unincorporated Boulder County. And it's the one that's down the street from the residence that we've been talking about. The lot's about 0.91 acres. We have it at 39,740 square feet. And that is covered in our Exhibit B. The appraisal of that lot is in our Exhibit B. Then the other 3 lots are sort of associated with the improved residence. So the residence address is 7245. Is it Crannell or Crannell?
Crannell, Crannell, it's Crannell.
Okay, Crannell. So that's the residence. That's account number R0036448. There's a single family residence on that lot, still within this Fairview Estates subdivision. The house is about 1,300 square feet of finished above grade. There's an 825 square foot unfinished basement. There's also several, I think the total is around 2,500 square feet of sheds on the property, but those aren't included in our valuation. House was built in 1963 and its lot is also approximately 0.91 acres, 38,512 square feet. Then the 2 other lots, and this is covered in Exhibit A of our Exhibit A. So Exhibit A covers the improved residence, and then the following 2 lots that I'll describe. We have R0036450. That's a residential parcel that's vacant. It is approximately 0.95 acres, and it's adjacent to the residence. And then we have lot R0036451, another residential parcel that's vacant, and it is approximately 1.41 acres across the street from residence. And all 3 of those are covered in our Exhibit A. We would like to present testimony from Brian Floyd and Debbie Meyer, who are both certified general appraisers. They've both completed appraisal reports for the hearing. Mr. Floyd will testify as to the vacant land parcel, the 36449, and Ms. Meyer will, and that's Exhibit B. Ms. Meyer will testify as to the rest. Both reports follow statutory requirements using approaches to value to ascertain the value of the parcels at issue, looking at comparable sales. I have a table I have to read from for the requested values, and I will go through these. So starting with the vacant land, R0036449, the BOE value was $680,935,000, and our Exhibit B concludes to that same value. Then for the residents and the 2 residential parcels that are vacant along with it in Exhibit A, the residents, the 36448 parcel where the residence is, the BOE value was 930,000, but we are requesting 805,500 on that. On the residential vacant land property 36450, the BOE value is $400,000. Ms. Myers concluded to a value of $504,400 for that. As you know, the state statute doesn't allow the BAA to increase the value from BOE more than 5%. And that is Ms. Myers' conclusion is greater than 5%. So we'll be requesting 5% more than BOE. So $420,000 for parcel 36450. And then the third parcel in that Exhibit A is the residential that's unimproved, number 36451. BOE concluded to a value of $484,870. Ms. Myers' report concludes to a value of $780,100. Again, we have the discrepancy between the BAA's legal authority to go above BOE value. So we'll be looking for the 5% more than BOE, and we'll be asking you to conclude to a value of $509,113 for that parcel 36451. And that's my opening statement.
Thank you. Mr. Spritzer, let's go.
Spritzer.
We have Spritzer. Do you have any, Ms. Crane, do you have any questions of Mr. Spritzer?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Spritzer, what value are you asking the board to place on your property?
Which property are you talking about now?
Well, let's talk about the house.
The house property. And what was the valuation?
The CBOE value is 930, and they're recommending a value of 805,500.
Yeah, what was it 2 years ago? Do you have any idea what it was 2 years ago?
I have no idea.
No idea. And how much it went up? You see, we had this is not the first time I went through this. We had this taxes all down. When I overpaid the taxes in 2023, I overpaid the taxes on the big lot across the street because they were overtaxing. And I got that money back because they put it down to, the taxes were around $2,200 at that time. And so I got that okay. But now I didn't know why it went back on this again, because we already had tax amounts on it, and all of a sudden it's out of reach because of the acreage. But
Okay, let's get back to what you believe the house is worth.
the what?
The house.
How much the house is worth? And what was
Yeah.
what was the valuation on it that you had?
They're
600.
recommending value of 805,500.
Well, right now, it could have been better, but I'll tell you what, if I know Debbie went through our house. We don't have a heater in it anymore because it screwed up the furnace when that flood came through. We had 26 inches of water in there for I don't know how long. Lot 35 was completely flooded. It had water on 8/10 of the property, and the county never had the right to run the culvert back from where they did onto my property. If there's a 15-foot easement there, they should have had a runway for the water. But that I didn't think anything about it till 15. Even in 13, they were running the water down South Boulder Road, so we kept the water going down that way. But since then, the 2 houses down below me towards South Boulder Road have put their culverts 4 inches from the very top of where they got it, so that they're filled up with water. I have a leaching field for my basement there. The water drains, and I got a drain around my basement that leaks out that way. and goes down that ditch. And, well, it goes into a leaching field then and then into the ditch. Now, when that ditch fills up, it backs up into my property because, it's way too much water going through there, and it's not the way they should have kept running it down South Boulder Road, and they don't. They're running across my piece of property. So that's the big kind of, I'd say, bitch, or whatever it is. I'm just complaining, maybe you can say instead, but it's not right. And I've been down to the county how many times to get that corrected, and my wife knows. I said, I'm getting tired. We drive in there all the time, but I can't get nothing done. And like I said, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know anything. And I never got anything involved with a lawyer until on this piece of property. I did get a lawyer to give me some information because I was lost. And I will mention that later when we get to that lot up there. And
Mr. Spreitzer, I'm still looking for a value. Do you have a
for the
value?
value of that property, I would say, well,
With the house on it.
with the house on it and everything right now, what it cost me to build it is a lot less than that. I'll tell you that. But how much do you think?
The house that we're on.
Yeah.
Is whatever this is.
850,000, you said it's got, that you got
800
on?
500, what they're recommending.
Yeah, well, I'd say it's a little bit high. I'd say it's more like 705. That's what I'm guessing at. I mean, and I know what I built it for and how many years we had it and what the taxes was on it. So
right.
I'd say it's high because of the taxes.
Okay. So you're saying 705,000.
Yeah, I'd say at least
Okay.
100.
How about the lot with the 0.95 acres? You've got two lots, 0.95 and 1.41. How much on each of those lots?
Well, what was that, 9.5 and what?
0.95.
The one next to me
Yeah, that's
is down below. That piece of property now, since the county put that culvert on there, is 0. I could have sold that piece of property and now I can't sell it. That water's running across there as long as the county's got that culvert there and it floods that lot. If it rains, there's nobody that wants to build a house on that piece of property. I cannot sell it as a sales lot until the county corrects that water flow system back South Boulder Road. And I've been fighting that since they did that in 2015. And that's 9 years now that I've been trying to get them to correct that. And they haven't. So I can't do anything about that piece of property. That piece of property, if I could get, I'm not saying I want to even sell it, but I had a guy come and said, hey, that's a beautiful piece of property. The view is great. And he wanted that piece of property. And I said, well, look, we got a problem with it. I said, it floods. Yeah, you can see where the culvert used to be, because there's parts of it into trees and where it's at now. And they put it there because I had a little drain from my basement to go down the ditch and across my property. So the city, the county, come back, they reversed the culvert from going to South Boulder Road, which was going southwest, and they turned it to northwest, and then right there in the ditch, and cut it across into my property and opened it up. And they don't have any right to do that, even if they got 15 feet, they're way off of it. So they flooded it, and that's the thing I'm talking to my lawyer about, because we've been working on that. That should not have been done, and I should not have got all the damage that I got to my garage, the sheds I have out there. It's like Debbie was out there to see it, they're almost worthless. And it's because of all that flood. And we had 10 inches of water back up into my garage.
Okay.
And when I was building houses, I stored stuff in my garage, so I had a lot of material damage too, plus the cars I had in it.
Okay. What I'm trying to do, Mr. Spreitzer, is to get some values here so we can move along with this hearing. What are you suggesting that value should be on that lot?
What I paid for?
And what was that?
$2,500.
All right. Okay. How about on the 1.41 acre lot?
Now that there piece of property is across the street. And when we flooded that lot across the way, it backed up the water a little bit onto that lot, but the water runs down right in front of that whole front of that, the water, and then into that culvert that they got going across the road and onto that other piece of property of mine. But there is a water problem on that piece of property if they don't correct the water flow. And it's not like I haven't been doing things there. I've been down to the city, I don't know how many times. But I spent 5 hours one day down there with a fella, and he worked. He was like Brian. He was there to give me information, and he said, "John, they got this really messed up for you." He said, "This should be corrected." And I've never had a chance. All the time that we come into the city of Boulder, I could not get it corrected. And
Okay.
even with this, when I want to say something else, when Debbie came out there, she said, "Would you like to change this to a farm?" I don't know what the deal was. There's 4 lots, and I have the paper here that I had to fill out, and I had problems, and I went down to the city 3 times to get some help, and I couldn't get any help, and I couldn't do it by myself. And Debbie was busy, I know, but to fill it out for that tax assessation, whatever it was going to be, of being a farmland. And so that there is something I've got here too, but I got so much paperwork to do, and like I said, I'm not the smartest guy in taxation, so I really didn't get that done because I didn't get any help. But I did have a good time with that one fellow. We spent 5 hours, my wife and I, with him, and we got a lot of information. And what he told me, I believe was true. And he works for a tax assessor, and he told me, I mean, it wasn't anything that he had to have written down, but and I don't even have his name because he just talked nice, and he was a nice fella, and I never thought about writing it down and putting all this in paper. I'm not going to get technical with it. So I
Right.
think,
What do you think it's worth?
well, they had it taxed at $2,200 about 3 years ago after it finally came through, and I got my money back for overpaying the taxes on it. And I would say whatever the taxes were in 2019, I don't remember. I'd say that is a maximum. And I can't remember what it was because I don't have it here. But whatever
Okay.
that tax was in 2019,
Okay.
I'd
And
say
right now they have a value of 484,870 on it.
how much?
484,870.
Which piece of property is that now?
The 1.41 acres.
Yeah, well, that's a lot more than I paid for it, but I don't know. I know the last time we agreed on the taxes, they said the taxes would be about $2,200 a year. And they didn't say how much it was on, but this was about just before COVID came out. I was working on it because I was working on that property from 15 after the flood, and I got some pricing, and I was doing some pricing. And they said, well, the property over there, and we explained the water damage. Well, the price would be about $2,200, and I don't know what the price is on. So they had they sent me a tax deal due on it, $11,000. So I paid them the $11,000.
Okay. We're
Because
trying to, I'm trying to get actual values, not what the tax,
okay,
actual values.
actual value. I can't really give you a piece of actual value price on that. I know whatever they taxed it at in 2019 was $2,200. They give me a tax on. That's what it was going to be instead of $11,000.
Okay. So you're talking tax and we're talking actual value.
Yeah, we're talking now. So I don't know what that's going to be. You see, I don't know how much taxes were then, but I would say it's taxed on too much money. I don't know what it's worth because I can't say, but I would say that piece of property is probably worth $250,000.
Okay. All right. Okay. And how about the vacant lot that is in Exhibit B? The one that's 0.91 acres.
Okay, that piece of property is up by up the road, and it's not attached to my property. I bought it. It was to be, like I said, with my brother and his friend, and we were supposed to build a house on it. We had all this going, and the Lafayette Water Department says, yes, you can tap onto our line. I went up there and I never did get an answer back on them yet because I've been doing a lot of other things. And I went and talked to the lady about, do we still have that right to tap onto that water line? I said, and then I told her exactly what it was. I didn't get any paperwork because I thought, well, I'll drill a well, just like I did on my property. But anyhow, I think that piece of property, I went and seen a lawyer about it, and they found a piece of property that was just like it in this area. And they said that piece of property should be priced at $450,800. And this was from the lawyer that I got this right here from. This was sent in on the 10th of June at 9 o'clock at night, and it was tabulated and it was on time, and it wasn't past the deadline because the deadline was the 10th of June.
Okay.
She did this and we got that through, but if there's anything that comes up there, I'm saying the property tax on that should be, like she said, the tax should be about $405,000. That's what she
You said 405 or 450?
450 is what the property was worth, she says about.
Okay, all
You
right.
want to know what I think the taxes are, and I'd say 405.
Okay. All right, so you're saying, okay, 450, 800 for that parcel is what the lawyer suggested.
Because there was a piece of property that was worth that.
Okay. But you're saying 405.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that, but that's, you know, if you want to go with 450, 800, that's fine.
Okay, all right.
That's only $45,000. I mean, that's going to eat up in taxes in 3 years.
Okay. All right, let's go to Ms. Lucas. Ms. Lucas, do you want to call your first witness?
Sure, and I'm gonna go with Exhibit B first. So I'll be calling Brian Floyd.
Mr. Floyd, do you want to raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed, Ms. Lucas.
Okay, thank you. Brian, can you tell us who your employer is and how long you've been working for them, please? And what your position is?
Sure. I work for Boulder County. I've been with the county for about 3.5 years. My position is appeal negotiator. I have about 22 years of appraisal experience. I'm a certified general appraiser. I'm also a designated member of the Appraisal Institute as well.
Okay, great. Given all of that, I'd like to have Mr. Floyd admitted as an expert in this matter, please.
Mr. Spreitzer, do you have any objection to Mr. Floyd being admitted as an expert?
I don't know him, and I'll have to say yes since I want to get this done.
Okay. Mr. Floyd will be admitted as an expert.
Thanks. So Mr. Floyd, we are talking here about property parcel 0036449 is the assessor number for that. It's a piece of vacant land in the Fairview Estates subdivision. Are you familiar with the subject property?
I am. I have done some research for this appraisal, and I did an exterior only inspection of the property as well.
Okay, and is your appraisal Exhibit B that was
Yes.
turned in? Yes, in this manner. Okay, great. Let's see, as you're putting together your appraisal for this vacant parcel, were you following any particular guidelines or requirements as you put the report together?
Yes, I am bound by the Colorado Constitution, Colorado Revised Statutes, the Department of Property Tax and Assessor Reference Library, uniform standards of professional appraisal practice, and I've also bound to the ethical and educational requirements of the Appraisal Institute.
Okay, did you follow all of those in preparing your report?
Yes, I did.
And finally, just to confirm, is your compensation from Boulder County contingent on any resulting values from this hearing?
No.
Well, let's get into the report. Can you please give a brief description of the property and sort of walk us through your report on pictures and things like that? It's in
Sure.
this. Do you want me to turn to your page?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. It's right. Let's see. Sorry, we're finding the hard copy for the Spritzers. It starts
Gotcha.
here and then it goes through the rest.
All right, thank you.
Sure. Please go
Okay.
ahead. Sorry.
All right, well, we'll kind of start with the nitty gritty on page 2. Property rights appraised for the fee simple estate. The effective date of value is June 30th, 2022. The assessment date is January 1st, 2023. The date of this report is May 29th, 2024. The recommended value is $680,935. And the recommended classification is vacant land, which has also been the same classification on this property since 2007. If we flip down to the summary of salient features, that is on page 4. Property owner is John M. and Geraldine Spreitzer. This is account number R0036449. Legal description is lot 27, Fairview Estates 1. This parcel is 0.9123 acres or 39,740 square feet. The zoning of this property is ER, Estate Residential of Boulder County. Flood zone is X, meaning a low risk. The use as of the assessment date was vacant land and is currently classified as vacant land, and as mentioned, has been classified as such since at least 2007. The highest and best use of this parcel would be to build a single family home as improved and as vacant. There is no holding period associated with this highest and best use, and construction could commence at any time. Site improvements include asphalt paved roads and public utilities. This subdivision does not have curbs and gutters. And there's no vertical improvements associated with this parcel. On page 5, you can see an aerial image of the property. And on page 6, you can see a street view of the property. As we continue down,
Sorry, we're looking at the printed version, Brian, and both photos are on page 5 in the printed version. I'm trying to walk
sorry.
Spritzers
Yep,
through as
page
well.
5.
You're fine.
Okay, continuing down, again, I'm going to kind of just try and hit some of the high spots. Sale and listing history. I did not find any sales of the subject within a 3-year period prior to the effective date of the subject. Mr. Spreitzer had indicated some listing history on this, although I didn't find that in IRIS for this particular parcel. In terms of approaches to value, I considered 3 approaches. I considered the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income approach to value. The cost approach was not completed. There are no substantial or contributing improvements that would have needed that analysis. I also considered an income approach, although I didn't really find enough lease dirt for that would also be relevant to the highest and best use. And again, the highest and best use would be an owner occupant building a house. It wouldn't be to lease it out in any form. So I also didn't complete the income approach on this. As mentioned, I did complete the sales comparison approach, and that starts on page 11 of the report. And starting on page, actually on page 12, you can see photos and a brief description of the sales comparisons utilized. On page 14, there's a map of the subject property and the 3 comparables as well. And starting on page 15 is the grid that shows the subject property and the comparable sales. In finding comparables, platted residential sites are not all that common in Boulder County, as most of them are controlled by builders and developers and that sort of thing. So we did have to expand our search for comparable sales. And one of the biggest considerations was size, and also, platted, utilities in place, and neighborhood considerations as well. Comparable number 1 was 11 Benchmark Road in unincorporated Boulder County. Sold for $1.16 million on July 5th of 2022. It's a 1-acre parcel that had a slight deduction for size in a slightly superior neighborhood as well. Not a lot of adjustments to this property, downward 15%, and adjusted out at $978,225. Comparable sale 2 is 1017 White Hawk Ranch, also unincorporated Boulder County. It's about 2 miles away. That property sold for $775,000, time adjusted up to $998,391 on January 29th of 2021. This was adjusted down for the Superior White Hawk Ranch subdivision, as well as a downward adjustment for size. It was similar in both economic area and neighborhood. After adjustments, this property had an indicated value of $578,862. Comparable 3 is along Panorama Drive, unincorporated Boulder County. It's about a mile away. This property sold for $680,000. Time trended to $831,492 on April 27th of 2021. This also had a 10% downward adjustment for a neighborhood. It's also a very large adjustment for a Superior Panorama Park subdivision. Slight upward adjustment for size, and this one did have a pretty large adjustment for a well situation there as well. After adjustments, this one adjusted to an indicated value of $706,692. Let's see, going down, after the adjustments, as I said, that the data indicated a range in values from $578,862 to $978,225, with an average of $754,593 and a median indicated value of $706,692. All of these comparables required adjustments for multiple elements of comparison, and considering the net and gross adjustments amount, I kind of leaned on the central tendencies of the data set, which very much supported our market or our modeled market value. And I asked the board to sustain that value at $680,935,000 today. There was also a question of classification on this property. Well, actually, let me get to my reconciliation first. I apologize. Kind of skipped over that. But if we jump to page 22, and I actually see a 600 or over on page 22, all I completed was the sales comparison approach, and again, all the weight was put on that $680,935,000. We also reviewed the classification on this property as well, because there was some question. I did speak with Mr. Spreitzer in the Boulder County office, and he did come in with some tax forms that he tried to fill out in front of me, but they were not actually attached to the tax return, and it was not relevant data that I could accept. So we did go ahead and take a look at this classification, and it seemed like perhaps there was some talk about some residential land or something, getting some favorable assessments rate for this particular lot. So really the nitty gritty is kind of shown on page 29. And if you flip over to page 29, it kind of walks through our classification determination. And our reasoning is, the land does not have any residential improvements that were destroyed by natural causes after the date of last assessment. There's not an agricultural operation on the land. This land is not contiguous to a parcel of residential land that has a related improvement that is essential to the use of the residential improvement located on the identically owned contiguous land. Contiguous means the parcels physically touch. A new residential improvement or part of a new residential improvement was not constructed or placed on the land in accordance with applicable law, use, or regulations as of January 1st. As you can see on that aerial map, there is no identical ownership touching this parcel, and therefore the value or the classification should be sustained as vacant land.
Okay. Thank you. That was thorough and concise. I don't think I have any follow-up questions unless there's something else you wanted to mention about your report.
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Mr. Spreitzer, do you have any questions of Mr. Floyd?
No, I don't. I tried to talk to him down at the office, and he talked so much I couldn't even say a word. And he didn't even let me get in. I was down there to try to do something else, but we were talking, and we slipped onto something. And he would, every time I'd say something, he'd give me a whole line of stuff, and I didn't even understand where he was coming from. So I don't know. I'm not going to say anything. I'm saying I was overwhelmed.
Okay. Ms. Crane, do you have any questions of Mr. Floyd?
I just wanted to confirm the CBOE value was the same as the requested value, 680,935.
Correct.
And, okay. And it's 0.91 acres, right?
Correct.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. Thank you. That's it.
Okay, and just to confirm, there's no utility to this property, is there, Mr. Floyd?
There's utilities to the lot line, and as you can see, there's developed houses on all sides of this parcel.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your testimony.
Oh, pardon me.
I have a question, and I'm looking at this map on page 29. There's a
And-
square.
Ms. Spreitzer, would you just state your name before you start
Oh.
speaking?
Excuse me, I'm Geraldine Spreitzer.
Thank you. Okay, now ask your question.
I'm looking on page 29 of this information, and if there's a square, and if that's the only about the approximate amount of property that we own on Cranell Drive, which is our property across the road from this,
We're on a different-
This is up the street.
this is up the street.
That's the one up the street.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I was looking at the wrong picture.
Okay, so do you have a question or no?
No, there's no question. I understand what the picture is showing me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Floyd, for your testimony.
Thank you all.
Okay, Ms. Lucas, do you want to call your next witness?
Yes, please. I'd like to call Debbie Meyer.
Ms. Meyer, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please proceed.
Thank
Ms.
you. And pardon me. Can I do a quick time check? I kind of got lost and
Well, Brody, I don't know how we're doing this because we started a little early. Can you go through the time of each, please?
Yeah, no worries. Petitioners use right around 25 minutes, as has the respondent, right around 25.
okay. And do we have, I'm just trying to see how quickly I need to get through Debbie's testimony.
For this particular case,
Valid.
it's an hour per side.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, we won't take that long, but I will
Yeah.
let her walk through it
Yeah.
a little less super fast paced. So first, let's, for this record, go through, Debbie, your qualifications, employer, all of those aspects, please. Who are you employed by? What's your position? How long have you worked, et cetera?
Okay.
Ms.
I'm
Ms. Lucas, hold on a minute.
Yes.
Mr. Spicer, you heard Debbie's qualifications for the prior hearing. Do you have any objection to the board admitting Debbie as an expert? Mr.
I don't.
Sprites,
No,
okay,
Great. Well, then we'll
let's
skip
go
that.
ahead. Admit her as an expert. We can move along.
Okay, thank you. All right. So Ms. Meyer, your report is Exhibit A in this matter. I think it would probably be easiest for us to walk through it parcel by parcel, which is sort of how the report is put together. So starting with the improved residential lot, the 7245, sorry. Can you please walk us through how you arrived at your concluded value for that property?
okay. So I'll just give a quick overview of the subject property. Mr. Spritzer did give me, allow me to inspect his property. I was out there on April 18th and toured the subject property as well as the vacant lots. The subject property is 1963 year built, and the property is in condition as vintage 1963. I do confirm with what he had stated earlier. When I was out there, the only thing that was heating the home was wood burning stove. I indicated that it was in fair condition. The house is being lived in, construction-wise, as Mr. Spritzer shared with me, he did construct the property himself way back when, and its highest and best use as is it's standing, although it is in fair condition just because it is 1963 year built. It is a one-story single-family residence. A unique feature about it is In prior year, there had been a flood, although it is on page 12 of my report, you will see that the property is in a minimal flood zone risk. And I did include a copy of the FEMA report on page 12. And so the garage is no longer being used as a garage. He does have dirt in front of it and it's being used as storage. So for the report, it is classified as storage use, not garage use. And the barn area and the tool and the shed, they were standing, but barely standing. So there was no value attributed to them on the condition date of January 1st of 2023. And how I arrived at the value was looking at sales of similar properties within the same subdivision that were as closest to similar condition as I could find to the subject. And would you?
Yeah, thank you for that intro. I guess, can you tell us again on page 12, the flood risk? That's minimal. Flood
It's
hazard.
minimal.
Okay, thanks. And then I'm noting the pictures from pages 14 through 18 of your report. Were these from your inspection?
Yes.
Okay.
And then I have an aerial on page 9 that basically shows this property and then the two adjacent accounts right next to the property.
Okay.
And then
Great.
the interior photos, you can see there's some of the exteriors. They start on page 14.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
And you can see just on the interior of the home. And it does have an unfinished basement below.
Okay, great.
Flooded.
Thank you. So then can you please walk us through your use of the sales comparison approach, how you chose comps, and how you concluded to your value?
Yes. So if you go to page 27 of the report, the three comparables that I chose were those that were most similar to the subject. The first is also on the same street as the subject. It's located at 4744A Crenell. It's 0.22 miles away. It sold September 8th of 2020. And it sold for $770 and it had a time adjusted sales price of $985,553, and then adjustments for living area, quality grade, any adjustments for differences in square footage of the lot, the condition. The comparables were in average condition, and the subject, after touring, I moved it down to fair condition. And the subject property for the valuation date did not have heating or air conditioning, so the comparables were adjusted downward to reflect that. The subject property also did not have a functional garage, so these comparables were adjusted down. And then there were differences for basement, and we had a adjusted sales price going from $789,000 to $825,000. And again, my indicated value arrived at was the median of $805,500.
Okay. Thank you. And I defer to the board if you want to ask questions parcel by parcel or walk all the way through the report and go back through. We're open to either approach.
It might be simpler if we do it parcel by parcel.
Okay.
Mr. Spreitzer, do you have any questions about the house itself? It must be in the form of a question.
Well, I don't have, I just wondered if the county's gonna do anything about the water that they're pouring across my lot that comes onto my property on where the house is built. My leaching field that I run my septic system on was flooded, and it's flooded, and the pipes were all rusted now, and the pipe is gone, and my septic system gets over flooded because it's right in the front of all the water that came in the basement. So I have no use of a septic system hardly at all right now. And, well, and unless I have somebody come and sit and talk to me for a couple hours, they'll never find out exactly what's happening out there. I mean, when we are walking through it, it's pretty hard to explain everything that's
Okay.
happened, how we live there. My basement is a mess.
Okay. Now, these are questions. Do you have any questions of Ms. Meyer regarding what she testified to with the house?
Well,
She's
only,
made your house in fair condition.
yeah, well, yeah, okay, fair condition if you call it. It's not in fair condition as far as I'm concerned. My
Okay.
basement would be in better shape than it is. I can't put anything down there without flooding. I've got water in there right now because of my pump system and getting the water out of around my basement. That their house is built on sandstone rock. I
These
know.
are, Mr. Spreitzer, I hate to keep interrupting you, but this
Yeah.
is forms of questions. Do you have any questions?
Well, if the valuation is by looking at some other properties, it doesn't even go to my property because there's no other properties that have the problems I've had with the county on my piece of property. That's where I'm getting my problems right now from 2015 and 2013.
Okay, now understand what the county's doing is they're administering the Constitution, state statutes, and assessor's reference library in valuing your property. They're doing
Yeah.
it based on what they have to how they have to value each property. And if you have any questions, this is your opportunity regarding your house to ask Ms.
I got a
Meyer.
question. Do they tell the people if their house valuations there exactly what's happening to that piece of property of mine? That my leaching field is gone because of the water floods it, that my septic system is all shot, my furnace and all that is washed out. I've changed 3 hot water heaters in 2013 and 2015. Now I've got the 3rd one in there and it's still in the basement because I can't get it out. Those are all went. I bought a brand new washing machine for my wife. Now, are they going to replace that? Because it flooded that, and it's still in the basement. And if you take it out of there and take it to a machinist, he'll tell you that machine has never been used. It's brand new, but it doesn't work now because it's all flooded out. And
Okay. Let's have Ms. Meyer, if she took into account the flooding in the basement and the leach field. Ms. Meyer, how did you address that?
Okay, so the leach field, that was not brought to my attention. So that was not consideration of my report. And we're going back to January 1st of 2023. So if something's currently going on in the property, it would need to be something in a future valuation date. And there was evidence of previous flooding in the basement. And so that was part of the reasoning from moving the condition down from, I believe it was average, I moved it down to fair condition. So that was one of the indicating factors for that move on the condition of the property.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, Mr. Spreitzer, before we go to board questions?
Well, I don't have any questions. It's everything's a question because I got something to say, but I don't have any questions really other than I don't think if I had that for sale and you came out there, I know darn well you wouldn't give me what she's valuing that property for. I know you wouldn't. And
Okay.
if you could send me a person out there to get that value, I might think about selling it.
Okay, Ms. Crane, do you have any questions of Ms. Meyer?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Meyer, and you're recommending a value of $805,500 for this property, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, Ms. Lucas, do you want to move on to your next property?
Sure. So keeping on with Ms. Meyer and Exhibit A, let's move on to let's see, sorry, R0036450. That's the vacant parcel that is adjacent to the property, I
To the
believe.
west.
To the
west.
Is that
Yes,
right?
but not across the street. We're looking at
No,
the,
across the street is to the south.
okay.
That's the
Southeast.
one
So-
across the street. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking across the street. Okay, sorry. Well, we'll start. I'm just trying
No,
to go
I mean,
to,
I take that back. Hold on, my grids. I'm on double-sided pages, and so,
yeah. they do
no,
the
that
same
is
thing.
correct. Yeah.
Okay. So it's the one adjacent, right? It's the 0.91
Right.
acre. Okay, great.
Right.
And we're looking at then, starting on page 29 of your report. I think probably the best way to do this, since it looks like, could you discuss the sales comparison approach and how you use that? Looks like maybe you had the same comps for both of Mr. Spreitzer and Mr. and Mrs. Spreitzer's properties. So if you could first talk about how you chose those comps, and then specifically with respect to 36450 and that grid on page 30, how you got to your value, please.
Yes. So if you want to turn to page 29 of the report, the land sales comparables that I used were the same for both. So I looked for those that were most similar in location, size, for the vacant lots.
29?
The
This is 29.
Do I need to
Sorry,
pause for a
I'm
second?
sorry. Could you pause for a second? We're trying to get on the correct page. It's
Yes,
this
page
report.
29.
It's confusing because it's all one big document. Pardon me, it's this report, only
How many-
exhibit A. So go sort of back in time, if you will. I'll just grab it.
It's
for you.
page 29 too.
Yeah, but we have the printout and
Oh.
we didn't
It's all printed out together.
paginate them.
I don't know which with.
Yeah, so we're in Debbie's report here. We're
Oh, there
starting
we go.
here, and let me just kind of lay it out for you like a book, so then maybe it's a little easier. There you go. All right, sorry for the interruption.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Okay. Comparable number one is located at at 7331 Spring Court. Account number is R0035721. And it sold May 2nd of 2022 for 1.2 million. Comparable number two was at 1017 White Hawk Ranch Drive. Account number R0500922. It sold February 1st of 2021 for $775,000. Sale number three was at 7439 Panorama Drive. It sold 6/28 of 2022 for 1.375 million. Account number is R0035621. And the comparison of the land, this particular parcel, land square footage was approximately 40,994. The comparisons to them ranged from 41,992 to 48,787. Differences were because the land sales as of these there were relatively still scarce. And so if there was a difference in a subdivision, they would have received a subdivision adjustment. And on all three of these, they were decreased in value. Neighborhood adjustment, a decrease, and then there was adjustments for square footage sizes to make them like the subject. Overall, the range in the valuation went to from 495,000 to 593. And on the first lot, we went to the selected value of 520 400, and that is again the median sales price. And do you want me to go on to the other one too to go over the adjustments, or you want me to stop here?
Just confirming you've been on page 30. That's the grid. that
Page
you've been
30, correct.
Okay. And then I'll defer. I think maybe I would suggest that these two lots are similar enough that we could do both of them.
Yes,
I'll-
I agree.
Okay,
Okay.
great. So then Debbie,
And-
please continue.
Okay, and so the comparables were the same for the other lot. The only differences on the other one, I did go to the lower end of the sales because of the shape of the lot, and it was larger size. So that one I arrived at 780, 100.
Can you
And
say
that's on
that?
page 31.
Thank you. Yeah, 31. And can you talk a little bit more? You said about you went to the lower end of the range. Can you explain again why for this second parcel?
For the second parcel, just due to the shape of the lot, it is a triangle shaped, and I just moved it to the lower end of the sales range just because there would be less utility of the land.
All right. Thank you. I think, let me just double click. Is there anything else you want to say about these two
No,
lots?
I think that covers it. Yeah.
Okay. I think that covers my questions as well. So we'll rest on those.
Okay, Mr. Spreitzer, do you have any questions of Ms. Meyer on the vacant lots?
If you're talking about lot 37, is that the lot we're talking about? That's what I want to know. I want to.
Which
No,
one is
The
37?
one that
Across the
is
street.
to the south of you and then across the road.
Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Now, we have that piece of property, the back part of that property, the back 25 feet, which is about 395 feet, has a right of way for electrical people. And it's all the way across the back. It's 395 feet across the back. Every time they come to fix their telephone poles, they gotta go through my property with their trucks, and that's where I hay. They should come in from the side, but I have there's a fence there, and there was a gate there, but now there's no gate there because somebody left it open, and I used to put the horses in there. So now I just tied the fence. But when they come in there, they just go in there now. They don't even knock on my door and say, can I go over? We have to do something to our pole. And they've been fixing that pole out there. And it's about 150 feet into the property, I think, where it's at. And then that their easement runs all the way to the fence.
Mr. Spreitzer, do you have a question here?
Yeah, I want to know why they include the parcel that's for utilities in that 1.4 acres. I mean, as far as taxation, when they're using it and I can't build on it. And if there's a right of way going through my property, I can't build on it.
Can you explain, Ms. Meyer, how that works?
Okay, so utility easements are typical in Colorado. So you still have use of the land. So a lot of times you're not going to build right where the utility easement is because of the setback requirements. So for property taxation, there is usually not an adjustment for easements such as utility gaining access for utilities.
Okay, any further questions before we go to board questions?
Well, that's about 25,000 feet that I have nothing to say about then. Square feet, that's a half an acre.
I have a question.
Okay,
If the utility pole is required that we give them access, why do we have to access all the way to the other end of our property where they're not even going to bring a truck in to get to that pole?
They don't do it.
They don't do it. They get on the property as quickly as they possibly can. But the line on this piece of paper that shows me, it goes all the way to the fence line of our neighbors across the road. So
Can you-
is that, my question is, why do they have to have that large of an access? From the very point of the road that is there to that pole that they have to get to, which the access goes all the way up to the next property line.
it's pretty hard to answer a question that the utility company is there. I mean, if they're the ones that come onto the property.
I know that.
We're
And if
just
they-
the property taxation of the vacant lot.
This is
So there's
this
an easement there.
395 feet. Right now, there's a pole right there.
Okay.
Yeah, they're supposed to come in here, but they don't have.
Mr. Spreitzer is showing me on the map the issue that they were discussing.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
Ms. Meyer, is there anything you can add to that before we go to board questions?
I would just suggest if you have a question why they are needing that much utility easement, I would reach out to the utility company and ask them. The adjustment I made on my was for size, and typically in property taxation, there's no adjustment for utility easements.
okay. That gives me a good answer.
That
Thank
piece
you.
of property, that pipe that's on that piece of property for the piece of property, or it wouldn't be on there. And it's been there for 63 years and there's nobody that's used that line from that fence of the neighbor to where it's at. But they go in there and work on that telephone pole. Now, why, if that's the end of the line, would they be in there doing that?
Okay.
On it, it's using electricity there.
This is questions, Mr. Spreitzer. Let's go to board
I'm
questions.
asking, why are they doing that? Why do they come in there? They shouldn't be doing it.
That's
That's
hard.
beyond the scope of this hearing,
Yeah,
beyond the scope of this hearing.
that would be where you contact the utility company. Ms. Crane, do you have any questions of Ms. Meyer?
I just need to confirm a couple things. On account ending in 450, the appraisal value came in at 520,400. Is that right?
For which account? I'm having trouble hearing.
The account ending in 450. Do you need me to say the whole account number?
No, I got it.
Okay.
Um,
The appraised value, 524.
that is correct.
Okay. So
And-
then, okay, go ahead.
But the valuation's limited just to a 5% increase.
I got that part.
Okay.
Okay, good, good. And then the other thing I wanted to confirm what the land sizes are for accounts 448, ending in 448, 450, and 451. The land sizes for those three parcels. All the ones around the improved the house. I just needed to make sure I had the correct numbers.
Okay, so you repeat the account numbers again that you
Okay,
need in the square.
the one ending in 448, which is the house. I
Okay,
need land size.
a land size. Okay,
And
okay,
the land size for 450
Okay.
and 450.
okay. So I've got the page in front of me. So if I could start with R0, the vacant lots, R00-36450.
Okay,
The lot size per square foot is 40,994.32.
okay,
And then the triangular lot that account number ends in 451.
yep,
That particular one is 61,331.41
okay,
square feet. And then the hold on one second. And then the main parcel with the house is 39,508.92. And if you look at my summary of salient facts page, it might be helpful. I
There you
have
go.
them all broken down there for you.
okay, that's nice, thank you.
And that's on page 5.
Okay, thank you for pointing that out, thanks. That's it for me.
Okay, Ms. Meyer, thank you for your testimony. Okay, closing statement. Mr. Spreitzer, do you have a closing statement?
Yeah, I just have a statement to say that I'm here because I think that the way that whatever's going on in comparison is way out. Just like this one, Panorama, you got safe in Panorama. That there property up there has got houses on that are almost twice the size of my house minimum. That property up there was always at least 4 times more than the property I bought in Fairview Estate. You couldn't buy a piece of property up there for $10,000 in Panorama. but your comparison prices is with my property that I bought down here for $2,200. And I don't think that's right. And that Fairview State First Edition is kind of a poor area compared to Panorama. And when I see that, that's up there on the side to the south. Those houses up there are expensive. I've been in the building business. I didn't even build up there because they were so expensive. But I'm telling you, it isn't comparable. You make a place for people who can build 1,000 square foot house, and then the others across the street there on South Boulder Road, you can't build one for less than 2,500. Now, you buy a piece of property and you see the difference in valuation of a house, 2,500 compared to $1,000. And taxes don't make any difference. The property is taxed the same as the one in Panorama, as mine down here. I don't believe that there's something wrong there. And I'm kind of just glad that I'm getting rid of the property. And right now I'm at the end of my time when I'm going to be doing anything, and I'm going to try to get rid of it as quick as I can. And finally, I didn't want to have to get involved with a lawyer, but I am now because I cannot get things done. And just like the valuation, he done the paperwork for me, the lawyer already. And he said the maximum for one of my, well, he's got 800 and some $1,000 on it. It's half that price. I don't understand it. And like I said, I don't get much help when I come in to the office here in Boulder, except once in a while. I was there one day when Debbie's two friends that were out there with her when they were looking at my property were there, and they were helping me. But when I talked to Brian, then I had a problem. So it didn't solve my problem that I was in there for. It's already went off on something else. And then my wife and I, like I said, we spent 5 hours with a fellow in there, and they said, John, they got this all messed up. They shouldn't have this. Why did I have the taxes correct for my property across the street, and all of a sudden they go up? They were corrected, and we were in 2023. They were corrected, but they charged me the max. They finally found out they were right, and it wasn't that the tax company had anything to do, but I had to pay an extra $11,000 for taxes on a piece of property that was $2,200. That's 20 times as well. That's 5 times as much. I just don't understand it. And I try to come in here and get some information. And like I'm saying, with these talks, I can't get by with it. I don't have a telephone. I don't have a computer. I can't be figuring all this out. I can't talk. I can only ask questions. So I can't get nothing done that I want to do unless I'm mouth to mouth with somebody. And like I said, I've only been to the courthouse down here once when I got some satisfaction. Once. I am not saying that I'm not getting satisfaction today. I don't know, but one time, and and it was the time I spent the most time with the fellow that talked to me, and he talked to me and the lady that assesses the values of taxes up there. What's her name?
The assessor?
Yes,
Cindy? Braddock?
Yeah, and I know her. I've seen her so much. She's probably tired of seeing me. But anyway, it's too hard for me, and I'm gonna discontinue this. I'm not gonna be doing all this paperwork because like I said, we were gonna go to a farmland taxation on it, and I didn't know what to do. I still got the papers here. I come into the office to get some help. I got a little help, and then the next day I come back. I talked to Debbie's two friends that were out there with us, and they helped me. I come the next day. Next day I saw Brian here. Hey, I talked to him for a little while and I left because I wasn't getting any satisfaction, and I'm not going to argue with anybody. And I just want to hear what's right. That's all.
All right. Okay, Ms. Lucas, do you have a closing statement?
Yeah, just quickly, on this second hearing, petitioners bear the burden of proving that Boulder County's value is incorrect, and we haven't seen any evidence regarding the value of these properties from the petitioners. Boulder County's provided 2 use PAP conforming appraisals, both by certified general appraisers. And we would urge the board to accept those values. I'm going to recite them here. For the parcel R0036449, which is the vacant land parcel up the street, that's the subject of Exhibit B. We are requesting a value of $680,935, which is the same as the BOE value. For Exhibit A, we had Ms. Meyer, who put that appraisal together, had 3 lots. She has concluded to a value of $805,000 for the residence parcel, the 0036448. That's below the BOE value. With respect to the unimproved residential lots, both adjacent and across the street, her conclusions are more than 5% above the BOE value. And therefore, although we believe those are supported, we're prohibited by law from requesting more than 5% above BOE value. And so we will be asking for the 5% above BOE value for those 2 parcels, specifically R0036450. We're looking for $420,000, and R0036451, we're looking for $509,113 in value. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm not going to read those values again because they're in the record. I think they're clear. And the petitioner has provided values for the board as well. The board has admitted respondents exhibits A and B into the record. The board will attempt to render a decision within the next 30 days. The parties will be notified in writing. Thank you very much for being here this morning, and have a wonderful day. This hearing is adjourned.